Now we want to move on and we want to talk about the measurement of volume. Now what volume is volume is the measurement of the inside of a three-dimensional figure. And you go, what's a three-dimensional figure? Well, everything in the real world is three-dimensional. It's called three dimensions because it has three measurements. We are three-dimensional. We have a length, we have a height, and we have, unfortunately, a width. Some of us have too big a width and we have to go on a diet, all right? But again, our length, our width, and our height make us three-dimensional. And again, in geometry, we have certain three-dimensional figures. We have something called a cube, okay? And a cube looks like this right here. And again, I don't know, I usually like to use these figures because it lets you see in a three-dimensional world a three-dimensional figure. But a cube is actually made up of 6 sides, sometimes called a hexahedron. Hex, remember, means 6, so hexahedron is one made up of 6 sides, okay? And again, all of those sides are squares. Now, to measure the volume, I want to see how much I can fit in the inside. And remember, perimeter had a straight measurement of like centimeters. Area had a square measurement because we were doing 2 dimensions. So to measure volume, we need 3 dimensions. And again, I don't know if you can see this right here, but this right here is a little tiny cube that happens to be 1 centimeter tall, 1 centimeter long, and 1 centimeter wide. And because that, it's called a cubic centimeter. If you've ever watched a show on TV that had an emergency room or a hospital, you would hear the doctor say something about give them 3 cc's of a certain medicine. Okay, a cc is a cubic centimeter. So this is a cubic centimeter. If you wanted 3 cc's of this medicine, you'd want enough liquid to fill up 3 of these things. Now, to find the volume of a cube, I could take and see how many of these little cylinders I could throw in here. And again, I could just take a whole bunch of them and throw them in and try to fill them up. But that wouldn't work too well because you see you have little gaps in there and spaces, and you couldn't fill it completely like that. So to fill it completely, what you could do is you could start to see how many cubic centimeters it would take to go across it. And then how many centimeters it could take to go down it. And again, if you fill that up, this one took 10 centimeters across, 10 centimeters down, which means it took a total of 100 centimeters to fill in the whole bottom. But that would only get you this high. So then you have to figure out how many of those floors I'd have to take, and it would take 10 of those. So it takes 10 rows that have 10 in each row, and 10 of those to build it up. So again, to find the volume, excuse me, of a cube, I could multiply the length times the width times the height. However, since it's a cube and it's got made up of squares, that's what makes it a cube, each of the faces is a square, okay, then the length, width, and height are all the same size. So it would be like side times side times side. And what do we call when we have something side times side times side? We call it side to the 3rd power. But when they talk about a cube, we don't call these the sides, we call them the edges, because in a 3-dimensional figure, they make the edges of the thing. So the formula for volume of a cube is edge to the 3rd power. Again, this makes a lot more sense when you're in a classroom and you can see it better. I don't know how much the video is going to show it, all right? But you don't really need to understand where the formula comes from. Like area and perimeter, all you really need to know is the formula, replace the variable as value, and then get the answer. So if I gave you a cube, and believe me, I am not a very good artist, as you already know. But if I was to give you a cube, and I told you the edge was 8 centimeters, then what I would do here is I would start with volume of a cube equals e to the third power, replace e with 8 centimeters to the third power, and that would be 8 centimeters times 8 centimeters times 8 centimeters. 8 times 8 is 64, and 64 times 8 is 512. Centimeters times centimeters is centimeters squared, but centimeters squared times centimeters is actually centimeters cubed, or you could just say 512 cubic centimeters. Okay, and again, if you wanted to abbreviate it, you could, or you could use it to the third power. All right, but again, just like volume, just like area is a square measurement, volume must be a cubic measurement, and that's how you would get that one. Now, we also have something called a rectangular prism, and you say, no, that's a box of Kleenex. Yeah, but a box of Kleenex is actually a rectangular prism, because the faces of this, you see, this was made up of squares. The faces of this are made up of rectangles. By the way, it's a hexahedron again, because it has 6 sides, just like a cube had 6 sides. But this hexahedron is called a rectangular prism because the 6 sides are all rectangles. By the way, if you were to look, this is the length of the rectangular prism. This is the width of the rectangular prism. That would give you what fills up the bottom. And then this is the height. And that would be, you'd have to build it up. So just like you could do with a cube, the formula for volume of a rectangular prism, okay, is equal to length times width times height. And again, excuse me, if you understand that, great. And if you don't understand where it came from, all you really need to know is the formula. Replace the variable with its value, use the order of operations to work it out. So if I had a length of, say, 9 inches, and a width of 3 inches, and a height of 4 inches, again, all I need to know is the formula. And then I could take the formula, volume of a rectangular prism is equal to length times width times height. Replace the length with 9 inches, the width with 3 inches, and the height with 4 inches. And then, excuse me, 9 times 3 is 27. 27 times 4 is 108. And inches times inches would be inches squared, times inches would be inches cubed, or inches to the third power. And again, that's the same thing as 108 cubic inches. All right? And again, if you know those two formulas, volume of a cube is equal to the edge to the third power, and volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height, then you can find the volume of any cube or any rectangular prism by taking the formula, replacing the variable with its value, and use the order of operations to work it out. By the way, just like I let you do with perimeter and area, you can use a calculator to do the calculation. And just like with perimeter and area, even if you get the right answer, if you have the right unit of measurement, the whole thing is wrong. So remember, volume is a cubic measurement. Area is a square measurement. And perimeter is a straight measurement. So keep the right unit of measurement when you get your answers. All right, so this is what you need to know for your homework. Okay, volume of a cube, edge to third power, volume of rectangular prism, length times width times height.